Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I rise in opposition to SB-233. And I want to talk about just a few things before your hearing today to make it plain as to where we are on the condition of education in the state of Georgia. Number one, kindergarten is not required in the state of Georgia, okay? Number two, pre-K is not fully funded in the state of Georgia. The lottery has about $25 billion in surplus, and we still have kids on a lottery trying to go to pre-K. Pre-K teachers aren't on the full funding schedule of K-12 teachers in the state of Georgia, so we know that statistics have told us the earlier a child is educated, guess what? They're better suited by third grade. They have proficiency and literacy. So as a state, we've come to SB-233 without making kindergarten mandatory, fully funding pre-K education in this state, so children aren't on the lottery. We have children right now in Chatham County that didn't get in on the lottery for pre-K. You know where they are? Home. Many of my rural colleagues have children who didn't get in on the pre-K, and you know where they are? Home. And so, colleagues, what is this bill going to do? I counted up on this nice little sheet here about maybe 58 to 59 counties that have a private school. I guess for the 100 to 101 counties that do not, we're going to send those counties thoughts and prayers. Because if we truly were serious about education and its impact on how we could educate children in this state, we would do something about it by making kindergarten a requirement. We'd raise the dropout age. If we truly cared about education, we'd do things that would affect education. One of the other issues in public education that we have to talk about, I see in this bill, they've got $500 for transportation. The state hadn't raised a dime on transportation in the last 15 years. School buses cost more money. School bus drivers cost more money. Diesel costs more money. But we're not funding transportation. So when we talk about how we can do things better to serve children in this state, we really got to have a tough look in the mirror, because we truly haven't done all that we could do to address education and literacy in this state. The Medicaid reimbursement rate on mental health is so low that children who are in poverty can't find a provider because they don't accept Medicaid in this state. So we got kids that got mental health problems. We haven't addressed the QBE formula as it relates to school psychologists or school social workers. We haven't changed the metric or the weight on how many children that allocation is. We know that children are facing a litany more problems and troubles than they've ever experienced in their lifetime, but we haven't changed that either. So if we were truly going to be serious about education, I encourage my colleagues that are outside of the metro area to look at that little map with these private schools on it and look at the counties that you have that don't have a private school. What about those kids? They're still left to fend for themselves. Help hadn't showed up for them. So who are we trying to help? Are we going to help the children who are the most vulnerable and need the help or the opportunity? We say we're here for rural Georgia, colleagues, but this bill isn't in favor of rural Georgia. And I'm going to give you the math on QBE made simple. Number one, you count the students. Number two, you count the state of Georgia QBE educational program weights and training and experience, the T&E factor. Then you get to number three. You multiply the number of students counted in each QBE program times the per student revenue amount times your local training and experience factor. Then you add the state funding for the indirect costs, and then the state deducts the local meal share amount. And if there are any austerity cuts, the state will deduct those from the district's earnings, so to speak. And so my question is for the folks that struggle with population, you got a rural district, you got a rural school system. Well, if money leaves the state budget, where your folks going to get the local QBE money? Because they ain't got but so many people that they can raise taxes on, or they're going to tax themselves out of business. So where do they come up with the extra money? Instead of looking at how to make cuts, we ought to be looking at how to make investments. This isn't making investments. This is just working for a small, select group, few people. Because if we were truly serious about education, kindergarten would be required. Pre-K teachers be fully funded. We wouldn't have children on a waiting list or a lottery for pre-K, because we know that early literacy matters. And I'm here to tell you, colleagues, that this bill today, this ain't it. This doesn't address the needs in education. This only perpetuates the gap and the divide that we already see and exist. And I promise you, it's exactly like this. You see the metro areas, they'll be okay. Everybody outside of the metro area will not be okay. How do I know? I've been to rural school districts and talked to superintendents and principals alike, and guess what? They don't have enough funding to fund all their children in pre-K programs, and guess what? They sit at home. And so with that, Mr. President, I won't keep you here and deliver the rest of my sermon. I'm going to just go ahead and yield the well.